Knowingly or unknowingly, we are all under the impact of globalization. And more importantly, it has helped in bringing international peace as well as justice to mankind. Now, globalization can mean one, a formation of a global village. So normally when you say global village, these are the old ways, no? Old style, old perspective. Through the use of globalization, we are very closer, no? Sabi niya, closer contact within different part of the world, meaning it will increase possibilities for a personal exchange. So, kailangan tayo nakikipag-dealt with others, nagkakaroon tayo ng mutual understanding, in short, friendship with our neighboring countries or neighboring places, di ba? So that it will create the so-called world citizen or world citizens. Economic globalization, take note, is known to be as a free trade aside from economic liberalization. And it increasing relationships or relations among members of industries, no, or industry in the different parts of the world. So in it with it or with a corresponding erosion of a national sovereignty in economic sphere. There are different signs of globalization. Take note, increase in international through trade at a faster nagbabago yung boses ko. Faster rate than the growth in the world economy. Also increase the international flow of capital, including foreign direct investment. There is also a greater transborder data flow using such technology like internet, at yung ginagamit natin, yung communication satellites, then, and even telephones. Greater international culture exchange, for example, yung exporting of Hollywood and the Bollywood movies. Some argue also even the terrorist no exchange no or terrorism has also undergone globalization, di ba? Kasi yung mga terrorists now have also attacked places all over the world. So ito po yung mga ISIS natin. Spreading of multiculturalism and better individual access to cultural diversity with on the other hand, some reduction in diversity through assimilation, hybridization, syempre yung westernization term, Americanization, and the Sinicization of cultures, referring to the East Asia or East culture. Erosion of national sovereignty and national border through the international agreement like yung WTO or World Trade Organization, OPEC or Oil Price Economic Council, nandiyan din po ang IMF, the WIPO, and many other organizations under the umbrella of United Nations. There is also a greater international travel and tourism, the greater immigration, including illegal immigration, also development of global telecommunication infrastructure. We have also development of global financial system, diba? Increase also the share of world economy, which is controlled by multinational corporation. Is also increase in the role of organization, so nasabi na natin kanina, and also increase the number of standards applied no globally. So example natin diyan yung mga copyright laws, okay? Yung mga laws na ini-implement for international or globally. Now, of course, despite of there are what we call the good sign no, of globalization, they are also considered anti-globalization. So these are anti-group considered, these are the activists who see the globalization as a promotion of what we call corporatist agenda, which is intent on constricting the freedoms of individual in the name of profit. O, alam niyo naman yung sabihin yan. They also claim that increasing autonomy and strength of corporation entities increasingly shape the political policy of the nation states. So globalization imposes credit base, no, referring to yan yung po yung credit based economic, resulting in unsustainable growth of debt and debt crisis. Kasi ano ka eh, utang ka ng utang, palaki ng palaki, 'di ba? So parang yun nga magiging lalaki ng lalaki ang mga utang natin. Kasi nga nag-aim tayo na magpagawa ng magpagawa. So ang anti, ayaw nila ng ganun. No? Nakikita nila laging negative. However, if there is an anti, there is a pro. Okay? These are the supporters of free trade because they point out that economic choice po, such as yung mga comparative advantages, suggest that free trade leads to more efficient allocation of resources. With all those involved in a trade benefiting, in general, they claim that this leads to lower prices, more employment, and better allocation of resources. Now, what about the Philippines? In our country, is taking part ito, no? It is the process of taking part in the process of globalization ever since the country signed the agreement in 1995 in the World Trade Organization. At present, the globalization is a very effective key, no, in our country because it has allowed major changes in the nation, like more on labor, more Filipino and even foreign companies has emerged, no, in the nation in order to help our country developing economy. Globalization can make the Philippines into a better nation if our leaders po make their economy more advanced through global trading and economy. So trading and allowing more foreign investors to help to boost our economy, and by accomplishing those goals, the Philippines should be no should be able to reduce the poverty problem. Now syempre nandyan din yung increased labor force for a job opportunity for those that are in need, no, or in need for a living. However, sabi dyan, since the poverty level is still increasing, most of the Filipinos has managed to find work overseas, okay, and they find and have managed to seek a better living in our country, than in ano no than in our country rather. So the most effective factors in the Philippines is of course education. Kaya po kayo nag-aaral. So in our society's mentality is to be educated, and it's with education that people in the nation see the opportunity for a better life in the future. So there are advantages to consider. Okay, number one is the peaceful relation. So most of the countries po have resorted to trade relations with each other in order to boost their economy, leaving behind any bitter past experience, if any. There is also employment, which is number two, considered to as one of the most crucial advantages in globalization that led to the generation of numerous employment opportunities. So more companies po are moving towards in the developing countries to acquire a labor force kasi nga mas mura, di ba? Education, number three, is also another advantages, which are very crucial then, advantage that has aided the population in the spread of education. With numerous education institutions around the globe, one can move out from the home country for better opportunity elsewhere. Also, number four is the product quality. The product quality has been enhanced so as to retain the customers, di ba? Kasi at present, customers may compromise if the prices range po but not with the quality of the product. So alam natin yan, low or tinatawag nating poor quality can adversely affect consumers' satisfaction. Then we have the cheaper prices. In globalization had brought it a fierce competition, no, in the market. So syempre, the more we have products, the lesser the prices that they offered in the market. Also, we have communication. It's every single information is very easily now to accessible or to access, no? Kasi ngayon in a second, we can already access some of the information, whether it is a government or private, di ba? Kayang-kaya na po natin yan. Transportation is also another one, considered po as the wheel of every business organization. That's why kung pa-traffic, malaking impact po yan sa ating mga businessmen. So, transportation is very good. Right now, you can see na meron tayong through land and through water ang system natin. GDP increase also is another one. Okay, it is a money value of the final goods and services produced in a one domestic territory in a one fiscal year, tinatawag natin. Free trade is also another policy in which our country does not levy taxes, or a country does not levy taxes, mga duties, subsidies, and so forth. And there are countries which have absorbed or resolved the problem with the free trade, specifically yung mga specific regions na tinatawag natin, like for example, the Southeast Asia. This also allows consumers to buy goods and services, no, and comparatively at a lower cost. Travel and tourism is also another advantages yan, which is promoted our tourism. So more international encouragement. So it means international trade yan among different countries. So natutulungan natin yung yung bansa na yan, specifically yung bansa natin. Internal borrowing also will help the globalization because there is an opportunity for the companies or even the government to borrow money from the local or international finances na tinatawag. Now, if there is an advantages, there is also disadvantages. So number one disadvantages is the health issue. O tama-tama mga future medtech kayo, no? So in globalization, it has given rise for more health risk, no? Kasi at present there are several kind of challenges or threats, no, for epidemics. So nakalimutan na natin yung mga problema like yung HIV or AIDS, no? Malaria, may dengue, ano pa ba isa, polio, 'di ba? Yan yung mga nagiging problema ngayon. Food item is also another, it can cause a health risk po yan kasi remember, yung mga food na dinideliver sa atin like yung mga perishable items, hindi po dapat yan hinaharang kasi meron siyang specific time no, na kailangan makarating siya sa a big a huge no storage a freezer na tinatawag natin. Even sa mga medicines no, kailangan yan. Loss of culture is also another one, another problem po yan because many people adopt the culture of the other countries or if they reside to a country, so normally they adapt it. Okay? Uneven wealth distribution is a very popular problem po yan in economics because the rich become richer and the poor boys become poorer. And in fact, hindi na solve yung poverty, no? Yung problem of reducing poverty. Environmental degradation is also another one when the Industrial Revolution introduced. So magkaroon po ng mga changes and outlook in economy. Industries are using a different kind of natural resources, ways of means of how to get that mineral resources, no? Kaya may mga mining and drilling tayo. Yung pit mining, hindi po yan dapat maganda eh. Kaya lang ito ina-allowed sa atin eh, pero sa Australia hindi. Disparity is also another one problem. Through the globalization has opened a new avenues like yung wider market and employment, no? There still exists in disparity in the development of ano. Kasi nandiyan yung mga tinatawag na different types of unemployment. So we have the structural, functional, meron tayong seasonal, and the other one is the, ano nga yun? Frictional. No? Yan po yung mga different types of unemployment. So yung structural is very popular ngayon because yung normally mga developed countries are moving, no? So I mean to say yung mga companies, they're moving their company no to the cheaper one kahit na developing pa, no, nagmo-move pa rin sila kasi nga may mga structure na nangyayari, no? Ibig sabihin problems po. Conflict is also another one. So referring to terrorism, 'di ba? It will that cause to a violence, a form of violence. Also, there is a cutthroat competition, no? Opening the doors of international trade also give birth intense competition. Nawawala na dito yung, ang tawag natin dito, yung protection ng product natin, our own identity. No? Kaya mas dumadami yung mga imported. Okay, so please watch for a short and additional information about our lesson.
Globalization is a widely discussed topic. It is therefore not all that easy to explain such a complicated term in simple words. Let's start from the beginning with the background to globalization. Advances in technology, such as mobile phones, aeroplanes, telephones, and the internet, have made the growth of transport and communication networks possible. Amongst other things, this means that people and countries can exchange information and goods more quickly and in a less complicated way. This process is called globalization. Globalization comes from globe and means the worldwide coming together of countries and nations. Let's look at an example. Companies used to manufacture products in their home countries, just like the companies Profi TV and Supercolor, who produce televisions in country A. Their products are in direct competition with each other, but both companies pay the same salaries and production costs. They have the same customers, use similar suppliers, and sell televisions at similar prices. In short, the same conditions apply to both companies. So far, so good. Due to technical, cultural, and economic developments that have come about through globalization, other companies which manufacture products under different conditions can now offer their products in country A too. That's why a company from country B can sell televisions here at a lower price because they were produced for less. The local firms Supercolor and Profi TV have to react to withstand the competition. And so the world grows closer together, and there is an active exchange of goods between countries. More affordable products are available for more people. However, not only does an exchange of products and economic goods take place, but also of services, knowledge, cultural goods, and even languages. All of these individual elements are closely linked and influence each other. But where there is light, there is also shadow. Because of globalization and this intense exchange of goods, people and the environment often suffer. If a company decides to move production to an economically disadvantaged country, people in industrialized countries lose their jobs. At the same time, job opportunities open up to many locals in the economically disadvantaged country. Many people in these countries work for very little money in comparison to those in industrialized countries. Therefore, they often remain poor and more often than not do not have sufficient insurance, social insurance, or health insurance cover. A further disadvantage of globalization is ecological problems such as climate change. The use of aeroplanes, ships, and lorries to transport goods over international borders is constantly on the increase. This causes more carbon dioxide to be released into the atmosphere, which, in turn, is the main cause of global warming. Even national environmental standards are ignored. This is a further cost factor in the worldwide international site competition, which should be kept as low as possible to be attractive for a company. There are therefore many sides to globalization, which affect almost all aspects of life, causing me to think that the chain of positive and negative effects will continue to grow further. What's important is to realize that globalization itself is neither good nor bad. It just depends how people deal with all the new possibilities in the future.
Okay, so that's it for now for our first lesson. Is there any question po? May tanong po ba? Before we proceed with another one? Wala tanong? Okay, next. Okay, wait lang po. At mabagal yung response ng aking Okay. For the next lesson, of course, since part of the module 1 yan, it's the Trump policy. Okay? So I hope nag-ano na siya, nag-appear na. Sana nag-appear na po sa inyo. Bakit ganon? Hindi po siya nakikita. Oo nga, hindi nakikita. Hindi rin siya nag-share sa aking other screen. Ayan na, naglumabas na. Pero sa akin hindi, ang bagal. Ayan. Sa inyo lumabas na. Ano ba yan? Inabot na yata tayo ng siyam-siyam dito. O, ayan. Okay, so let's start with another lesson, which is part of the lesson module 2, the policy of Trump. Okay, the global policy of Trump on Trump's administration. Okay, so as you can see, this is the the famous word normally as mentioned during the campaign of President Trump. Okay, that he wanted America great again. Okay. However, in some aspects, perspective, Donald Trump used this term in order to win with the heart of the American people. And in fact, tinatawag na nila this is a political drama. Okay? Why I said? Kasi tignan na lang po, kayo nyo po mag-analyze. Kasi after what happened to him, ano po ang nangyari? Diba? Naging isang basis po niya yon para mas naging popular siya against sa kanyang competition, no? Competition na kung sino pa yung kalaban niya sa election. Okay, so please watch. Ay mag-play. Loko to pinagloloko ko
Greatness doesn't discriminate. It doesn't see where you're from, what you look like, or who you know. Greatness is for those who work for it, for those who keep moving forward. Greatness is for anyone willing to fight for it.
Okay. So that's why he said, make America great again. Okay. Another term that he used is that make America wealthy again. Okay? Globalization was a central issue in the most country of the world, particularly the Donald Trump's policies during his first presidency in 2017 to 2021. But we understand that so many economies all over the world, the approach of Trump's administration mark a sharp departure from traditional globalization policies favored by previous US administrations. The idea of globalization in the context of Trump policy is meron siya tinatawag na core idea, and we call it, or he called it, as American First. Kung meron ng Philippines na Filipino First policy, meron din silang American First policy, which approach to the so-called globalization. To the Trump's policy, or a Trump's policy on American First viewed globalization on critically and arguing reaction that had hurt American workers, industries, and even their sovereignty. That's why Trump administrations pursued economic nationalism, seeking to redefine globalization in ways that needs to prioritize the interests of the US, United States. So there is a term protectionism as one of the key important policy of Trump. It says that protectionism means it is a government policy that restrict international trade to help the domestic industries. Kasi nga, make America great again. Please watch. What is protectionism?
We have all heard something about protectors. On skateboards, motorbikes, or mountain bikes, protectors keep us safe from injuries. This is what the Latin root protegere actually means, to protect. These days, we frequently read business news headlines like, "The government is taking protectionist measures." But what precisely does protectionism mean? And what is its connection with business? Let's take the imaginary country of Drawland. By introducing protectionist measures, President Ridiculo has a clear objective: to shield the domestic economy from competition from foreign companies. Measures like this may involve increasing import tariffs. Commodity trader Mike, for instance, looks abroad to buy his steel cheaply, which he then sells in Drawland. But the higher costs of purchase force him to introduce price increases as well, and that scares off his customers. Now he only buys steel on the domestic market. In other words, the demand for products manufactured locally rises, and the supply of foreign products drops. Initially, this can help to make plenty of jobs in the country secure. President Ridiculo uses these measures to isolate Drawland from the foreign markets. Emerging sectors benefit initially as well. Mike's sister Sarah, for instance, works at a startup in Drawland Valley that manufactures drones. Corporations from abroad are no longer able to compete directly, so Sarah has time to test how the company's drones perform on the home market and how they can be manufactured as cheaply as possible. So protectionism can initially lead to greater prosperity, especially in large countries like Drawland, but always at the expense of other countries, and that has consequences. There is a lack of international competition, and there is a slump in innovation. This means the products are no longer state-of-the-art, and often even more expensive than before. Foods that do not grow in Drawland, bananas for instance, simply disappear from the market. And President Ridiculo, he ends up sitting on a mountain of debt caused by an emerging imbalance. He supported domestic companies with plenty of money, but growth has suffered at the same time, as the companies are usually only able to sell their products on the domestic market. In response to President Ridiculo's unilateral actions, former trade partners now also turn their backs on Drawland. What's more, They too introduce protectionist policies to isolate their markets. There is a risk of a protectionist spiral, which in extreme cases can even lead to a global economic crisis, like in the 1930s. President Radiculo had only intended to protect the domestic economy, but now he has achieved precisely the opposite. He gradually realizes that although economic protectionism can provide Drawlin with short-term benefits, in the long term, it will inevitably lead to catastrophic consequences. So he decides without further ado that the elevated import tariffs need to be reduced, and that instead, the country should strengthen its relationships with important trade partners.
Okay. Okay, so that's the info no, about protectionism. Right? Ganun. Okay. So what are the advantages of protectionism? So number one is to encourage growth of infant industries. Second is the safeguard domestic industries. Later madidiscuss po yan. Strategic development and security. And of course, to promote job creation. Although na-mention siya dun sa short clip natin. Now, there are also forms of protection, no, as mentioned na kanina rin, which is number one is the tariff, the quota, standardization, exchange controls, voluntary export restraint, and of course, the import licensing. So these are the different forms no, for protection. Okay? Now, how the tariffs work? Now, paano nga ba yan? So please watch.
U.S. manufacturers make cars for $100, and they are selling briskly here at home. But the Chinese enter the market. They set their prices at $75. U.S. cars don't sell as well. The government decides to help the U.S. car makers, and they slap an 100% tariff on Chinese car imports. The companies that do the importing pay the tariff to the government. They typically raise the price of their products to cover it. Now, cars from China cost $150. Consumers flock back to U.S.-made cars, and all is good again. China may even open plants to build cars in the U.S., adding U.S. jobs to avoid the tax. But China likely retaliates and slaps tariffs on U.S. goods, making them more expensive overseas and hurting U.S. exports in different industries. Increased demand for U.S. cars and a lack of competition from other manufacturers may motivate U.S. car makers to raise their prices too. The market becomes less efficient and innovative.
Okay, so that's how the tariff works. So, what about the key aspects for trade policy or Trump policy? One, trade protectionism. Yan. So, the tariff po was imposed. That's why US imposed tariff to China. No? In billions of dollars of Chinese goods that result to US and China trade war. What is trade war? Please watch.
So far in this series, we've learned that generally the more trade there is in a society, the more prosperous that society is. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that economists and government officials would always favor free trade, or international trade left to its natural course, without any restrictions whatsoever. However, this is not the case. In fact, many actually call for protectionism, or restricting trade to shield domestic industries from foreign competition. In this tutorial, we will learn about the advantages and disadvantages of both free trade and protectionism. First of all, how does protectionism restrict trade? Probably the most common trade barrier is a tariff, or a tax on imported goods. Simply put, tariffs make foreign goods more expensive. Because of this, consumers might be more likely to buy domestic goods. Another common trade barrier is an import quota. An import quota places a limit on the amount of a good that can be imported. For example, the United States limits the amount of raw cotton that enters the country annually. Both tariffs and quotas are laws set by the government of the importing country. Governments may get more creative with their trade barriers. For example, they may require that foreign companies get a license to sell goods in their country, and they could charge high licensing fees. Even safety regulations can act as trade barriers. Suppose one country treats the fruit it grows with a particular insecticide. Another country might ban any fruit treated with that insecticide. Governments also put in place trade barriers for political reasons or in times of war. In response to the recent Russian invasion of Ukraine, the United States placed sanctions on Russia. A sanction is any action one government takes in order to punish or put pressure on another country. Often that action is an embargo or an official ban on trade. Economists often bring up three potential advantages of a protectionist economic policy. First, protectionism can help workers in industries that might be hurt by foreign competition. Suppose that Vietnam had a comparative advantage over the United States when it came to producing shirts. In particular, workers who made shirts in Vietnam were paid much less than workers who made shirts in the United States. Because of this, American wholesale distributors would have a greater incentive to buy shirts from Vietnam rather than at home in the United States because it's cheaper. As a result, American shirt companies couldn't compete and may have to close their factories and lay off workers. With protectionism, workers are more likely to keep their jobs. Protectionism can also help infant industries, or industries that are in early stages of development. Because infant industries are new, they have a much harder time competing with more established industries. Because infant industries need time and experience to become efficient producers, tariffs that raise the price of imported goods can provide more time until they reach that efficiency. Finally, protectionism may be needed during national security crises. Certain industries may require protection because their products are essential to defending the country. For example, in the event of a war, a country would need an uninterrupted supply of steel and oil. Therefore, domestic production would be prioritized. Ultimately, however, most economists argue that free trade is better than protectionism. First of all, free trade encourages truly competitive markets. If companies are not propped up by governments, they must seek a true comparative advantage and become more efficient on their own. When companies naturally become more competitive in a free market, they often become more successful. Fundamentally, the biggest winner when it comes to free trade is you, the viewer. You get higher quality goods and services. Perhaps more importantly, you get cheaper goods and services. As we learned in an earlier tutorial about trade, consumers are generally better off with fewer barriers to trade. When we have more access to cheaper goods and services, our standard of living goes up. Another advantage of free trade is that it promotes cooperative relationships among countries. If countries depend on each other for trade, they are much less likely to go to war with one another. To encourage free trade, most countries have signed international free trade agreements in recent decades. In fact, some of these pacts involve dozens of countries. Probably the most well-known of these pacts is the European Union, which is the largest trading bloc in the world. In 1995, leaders from various countries met to form the World Trade Organization, or WTO, with the goal of making global trade more free. Today, it often functions by resolving trade disputes. Critics of the WTO argue that it sometimes gives too much economic power to large multinational corporations. In conclusion, while the world's economies have moved toward free trade, controversy over trade continues. In fact, politicians often still get elected to government calling for protectionism. A recent example of a backlash against free trade arose in what became known as Brexit, which culminated in the withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the European Union in 2020. Most economists agree that this move will hurt the United Kingdom's economy in the long term, but it's important to remember that its own citizens voted to leave. Overall, free trade is likely here to stay for a long time, as it ultimately tends to provide a higher standard of living.
Okay. So that's the free trade. Now, what is US and China free trade? So an economic conflict between China and US has been ongoing since January of 2018, when the US President Donald Trump began imposing tariffs and other trade barriers on China with the aim of forcing it to make chances to what the US has said are long-standing unfair trade practices and intellectual property. So what is the conflict between the US? Because sabi niya, China harmful and unfair economic practices including trade in illicit goods, use of forced labor, and theft of sensitive technologies pose risks, no, to the United States economic and security interest. So please watch.
Trade wars. They don't involve missiles, tanks, or guns, but they can cause a lot of damage. The United States learned this the hard way in the early 1930s with the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. Up until that time, the U.S. used tariffs, which are taxes on goods produced or grown abroad that are sold in the U.S., as a protectionist policy, or a policy aimed at shielding domestic industries from foreign competition. Tariffs increased the cost of foreign goods, making American goods relatively cheaper and therefore more attractive to customers. So, when farmers in the US started struggling financially in the late 1920s, their representatives in Congress tried to help them with tariffs. Senator Reed Smoot of Utah and Representative Willis Hawley of Oregon sponsored a tariff bill that was originally meant to only raise tariffs on foreign agricultural products, to specifically help American farmers. But as the bill moved through Congress, other lawmakers tried to help their constituents who worked in other industries, like manufacturing and mining. And by the time it passed through Congress, the bill was calling for 890 different tariffs to be raised on a huge variety of items, from clothespins to oil drums to bottle caps, raising tariffs by an estimated 20% on average. Opposition quickly formed. More than 1,000 American economists signed a petition urging President Herbert Hoover not to sign the bill. They claimed that raising so many tariffs so high would be a major mistake. They predicted that it would harm most Americans once other countries started retaliating with their own tariffs, which would make American products more expensive and thus less competitive in foreign markets. Hoover ignored their warning and signed the bill. International outrage was swift. Some countries, including Spain, Mexico, and Canada, struck back with increased tariffs on American goods. This hit American farmers hard because exports to Canada had been a major part of their business. For example, before the tariffs, the U.S. was selling nearly 12 million eggs to Canada per year. But after Smoot-Hawley, that number plummeted by almost 99%, down to 170,000. Other American industries were hurt too. U.S. automobiles, iron, and steel exports dropped by over 80%, eliminating hundreds of millions of dollars worth of savings. The U.S. wasn't just harmed economically, though. There were also major foreign policy consequences. For example, Smoot-Hawley's tariffs on imported sugar crushed the Cuban economy, which depended on sugar sales. Cuban anger over the tariffs helped revolutionaries overthrow their U.S.-friendly government, and they replaced it with one that sought more independence from the U.S. Another consequence was that countries responded to the U.S. tariffs with their own protectionist policies, against not just the U.S., but often everyone else as well. This reduced the total amount of international trade and deepened the Great Depression, which may have helped set the stage for World War II. But before that conflict began, Americans had changed their minds about tariffs. Franklin D. Roosevelt won the presidency in 1932, promising to lower tariffs as a way to fight the Great Depression. By 1934, Congress passed the Reciprocal Trade Agreement Act, recognizing that tariffs shouldn't just be considered a domestic economic tool, but are also an important device for foreign policy and balancing international trade. With this bill, Congress gave the president authority to negotiate and lower tariffs with other countries. In the following decades, U.S. presidents from both parties used this authority to make international agreements that generally reduce tariffs, helping to build our modern global trade system. Almost all countries are now connected by trillions of dollars in exports and imports, supporting jobs and businesses around the world. So, the dangers posed by trade wars today have even greater potential for political destabilization and economic hardship on a global scale.
Okay. So, the advocates says that the trade war protect national interests and provide advantages to domestic businesses. That's why critics, sabi dyan, of trade wars claim that they ultimately hurt local companies, even the consumers, and also the economy. So who benefit for this trade war? Higher interest rate that often coincide with the early stages of recession provide an advantage to savers. No? And while lower interest rates moving out of the recession can benefit home buyers. Investors may also be able to find bargains, no, or bargain on assets that have decreased, no, in price during a recession. So why does China produce so many products that are sold to the US? Because, sabi dyan, it has lower wage requirements and favorable tax treatment that help makes manufacturing costs low. It also boosts relative supply chain efficiencies that entice, no, international corporation. So what would happen if China stopped trading with America? So in public statistics, sabi rito, it proved that even if China were to immediately halt, no, or halt all trades with the United States, it wouldn't be the end of the world for China. However, if China po were to stop buying just one American product, the US economy could spiral into a deadly cycle. So there are other key factors or aspects to consider. First, we have the NAFTA. NAFTA stands for North America Free Trade Agreement. No, it is a renegotiation. It is a replace with the USMCA na, which is US, America, or Mexico and Canada. This is an agreement between the three countries to secure better term for American workers or American workers. It also support mutuality beneficial trade leading to free market or freer market, fairer trade, and robust economic growth in North America. NAFTA was ito yung agreement which was enforced in 1994 to 2020. So na-implement yan to promote the trade between US, Canada, and Mexico. So what are the things NAFTA does? N is means grant the most favored nation status to so-called signers. A is eliminate tariffs and imports and export between three countries para ma-promote yung domestic. F is all NAFTA countries po must respect the patency, the trademarks, and the copyright of the company or the product. T is to, according to NAFTA, exporter must get certification of origin, no, to waive tariffs. And letter A po is to establishes procedures to resolve the trade dispute. So, magye-yes or no lang sila. So, with the objective of the USMCA are to eliminate. So, syempre yung NAFTA naging USMCA na siya to eliminate the barriers, no, to trade. It also promote condition of the fair competition, also increase investments opportunities, provide adequate protection of intellectual property rights, even establish effective procedures for implementing and also applying the agreements and resolving disputes. So please watch.
You might have heard of NAFTA, also known as the North American Free Trade Agreement. It was the first agreement of its kind and still makes the world's biggest free trade area. So, just what is it? Well, let's begin with the basics. First, it includes Canada, the US, and Mexico. It was proposed in 1992 by these guys, and it was extremely controversial. Critics feared massive job losses, with businesses packing up and moving production to Mexico. Supporters, though, they claimed that it would lead to cheaper goods, and that would lead to economic growth. In fact, it was so controversial that in the 1992 presidential election, a billionaire outsider presidential candidate shot to the top of the polls railing against it. Businessman Ross Perot. Sounds pretty familiar. But NAFTA won out in the end with Congress and then President Clinton ratifying it in 1993.
We are ready to compete, and we can win.
NAFTA is a large, incredibly complicated document, but at its core, it's pretty simple. Before NAFTA, when items were imported, they were taxed. After NAFTA, they weren't. This protects goods made domestically at the expense of consumers since the tax on foreign products is passed down. Higher tariffs, more expensive goods, less trade. Free trade agreements like NAFTA remove those tariffs, incentivizing trade and lowering costs for consumers. Tariffs were greatly reduced at the start of the agreement in 1994 and totally eliminated by 2008. So what did NAFTA accomplish? It's not easy pinpointing the exact effects that NAFTA has had because there are many factors in how economies function. But since the agreement, U.S. trade amongst Mexico and Canada has tripled. The U.S. trade deficit with Canada and Mexico has increased significantly. But according to this congressional report, NAFTA actually hasn't had that large an effect on the U.S. economy. NAFTA only increased the U.S. GDP by a few hundredths of a percent because relative to the size of the total economy, trade with Mexico and Canada isn't that big. So the biggest question of all, how has it affected American jobs? Economists agree there's no simple answer. It's impossible to completely separate the effects NAFTA has had on the economy from other external forces like recessions, currency valuation, technological automation, and overall increases in globalization. Many U.S. manufacturing jobs have moved overseas to countries that America doesn't even have free trade agreements with, like China. Overall, domestic manufacturing has taken a spill. Trade has increased and goods are cheaper.
Okay. So, what does the USMCA allows tariff? So tariffs po are posed on import that met the rules of origin of the USMCA. While the 25% tariff applies to product deemed to be made in Canada and Mexico, but that do not meet the requirements of USMCA rules of origin for preferential tariff treatment. So the another key aspects is the withdrawal from the TPP. So the withdrawal of America from the TPP. Trump pulled the US out of the TPP, okay, which is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, as a major regional trade agreement, arguing it would harm the US manufacturing. So you can see already, the countries part of the TPP. So nag-withdraw na sila, and in fact, at present, there are around 65 organizations. Kung hindi po ako nagkakamali sa bilang ko, 65 po yung withdrawan nila na organization na, because that's what they think. It would harm the United States, particularly sa mga citizen nila at saka sa kanilang manufacturing. Okay, so yan po yung impact ng Trans-Pacific Partnership, So makikita naman po niyan sa Google para mas makita mas malinaw. So very harmful rule ito. So as one of the reaction reaction ng US. So there are 5 defining features of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So nasa baba na po yung explanation. So number 1, there is a comprehensive market access to members of it. Also regional approach to commitment. Dapat inano nila, kaya lang yung Amerika nagbabago ng kanyang direksyon, di ba? Addressing new trade challenges, also inclusive trade, and also the platform for regional integration. So what is now the impact? It moves away from multilateral trade and deals with the bilateralism and more on protectionism policies. Diba? Sinabi kanina mas okay ang free trade kaysa dun sa protectionism, diba? Yan. The second key aspect of Trump policy is the immigration restriction. Trump reduced legal immigration and cracked down on undocumented immigration, citing the national security and job protectionism or protection. Policies included the Muslim ban, ending the DACA, yun po yung agreement nila before, and effort to build a wall on the southern border, which is in Mexico po yan. The U.S. immigration restrictions encompass a wide range of laws and policies that govern who can enter and stay in the United States, and even how they can do so. These restrictions are multifaceted, including numerical limits on certain visas categories, a ground for inadmissibility and enforcement mechanism. So what are the key aspects of immigration? So the US, the visa category and numerical limits. So the US now, the system uses various visa types for both temporary and permanent immigration po yan entry. Immigrants visas, which allows for permanent residencies, are categorized as family-based and employment-based, each with its own set of rules and numerical limitation. Second, the ground for inadmissibility. So ano po yung mga ground na yan? Certain individuals are barred from entering the US, this including those with criminal records, ayan po, health-related issues, kaya mahirap po pumasok ngayon kapag may mga declared ka na sakit, titignan nila kung ikaw ba kung ang gobyerno ba ay mamumblema Okay, security concern like those associated with terrorism, no, yung mga countries na nakaban, foreign policy interests, and those who have engaged in unlawful activities like using child soldiers, no? Sama na rin siguro yung mga drugs na dyan, etc. Second or third, unauthorized entry. These are entering the US without authorization or re-entering after being deported is a federal crime. Kaya yung mga Filipinong TNT, tapos na yung contract, umuwi ka na kasi a crime na siya. Okay? Next, enforcement of law. Okay, the US employed a virus measure to enforce immigration laws, including border security, okay, and removal of unauthorized immigrant. Now, who is not allowed, sabi dito, to immigrate no to US? Any violations daw of any law, whether it is a foreign or domestic relating to illegal drugs, can be also a ground of inadmissibility. 3 times or multiple criminal conviction and any person convicted of 2 or more crimes inadmissible. If the person was sentenced to 5 or more total years in prison, so yan po yun, kasama. So what is now the global impact for this? No, with the immigration, it reflects resistance to the free movement of people, a key component of globalization. The third key aspect is the manufacturing and jobs. Policies encourage reshoring, no, which means bringing job back to US. So ibig sabihin, hinikayat na yung mga tao. Balik kayo kasi babalik na yung trabaho para lahat ng mga manggagawa at yung mga Amerikano na walang trabaho, makatrabaho. Kaya ng mga Amerikano kasi ano sila desk work, di ba? Hindi sila skilled Ayaw na nila, kaya sila nawawalan trabaho. Tayo, mga Filipino for example, kaya natin kaya pwede tayo dyan. Tax cuts and the regulation were used as incentives to keep American companies from outsourcing. So, ang impact nito, pag nag-change, no, attempted reversal of offshoring trends caused by globalization. So, nire-reverse para bumalik. Kasi mga US companies po, wala na sa US, di ba? Nag-establish na sila sa mga industrialized, so yung mga country na mga cheaper ang mga labor, etc. Doon sila. So ngayon, gusto ni Amerikano, bumalik kayo sa bansang Pilipina, bansang Amerika. At doon nyo itayo. Diba? So humingi sila ng mga benefits, ano dapat. Kaya yung mga tax system, no, chine-check na yan para ma-encourage uli yung mga businessmen na lumipat at bumalik sa Amerika para mabigyan uli ng American priority ang mga Amerikano. Next is the foreign policy realignment. Okay? Trump emphasized transactional and relationship with allies. Kaya tinapapansin nyo, di ba? Maraming bansa po ang nakaban sa Amerika, hindi pwedeng pumasok, di pa kakakuha ng visa, naka-cancel. Pero ang Pilipinas, hindi, kasi allies tayo. Pangalawa, malaki kasi ang benefit ng Amerika sa atin kasi nga resource tayo agricultural, 'di ba? Ang laki ng nila. At pangalawa, ang Pilipinas po is strategic in military strategic perfect tayo. Gamit na gamit tayo ng mga Amerikano. Kaya hindi nila tayo iiwanan. Pero dapat matuto tayo. Okay? So how US foreign policy change? Making strategic change in a foreign policy is difficult for the United States. Consider, no, the example of the challenges that former President Donald Trump, ito po yung dating kanyang administration in 2017, then and former President Joe Biden, no, forced in their administration effort to withdraw US military forces from Afghanistan. Naging successful naman. Despite years of failing effort in bringing peace and stability to that country and limited evidences that much improvement would come without a major reorientation of the U.S. approach, resistance to changing course was enormous. It looked as outsider, no, when Donald Trump to set the process in motion, and a long-time insider, Joe Biden, then to finish it. So in early 90s or 1970s, U.S. withdrawal from Vietnam, ito yung war dati, which every few would criticize today, no, also took several years even after a huge protest movement at home and abroad demanded kasi nga ang dami affected dyan. Yung soldiers, expenses, and everything. For strategic change, Dematerialize the election of the president who wants changes is necessary but not sufficient. Trump's effort is to put American global role on a new course, whether its strengths and weaknesses. It is also the case in point in an area where his ideas receive wisdom in the Republican Party, the Congress or the national security bureaucracy. He was stylish, or styled. No? Only when where Trump pursued goals already favored by more important or by important groups in the foreign policy establishment did he get result. So example John, he was able to tear up the Iran nuclear deal because this action had long standing and deep support among Republican leaders, but he failed to withdraw yung forces from Syria because few others agreed. Trump's approach to foreign policy generated immense drama but limited changes in America's role in the world. Regardless of whether one think this outcome was for better or worse, and it is testimony to the power of continuity in the U.S. foreign policy. So what is the impact? It weakened the international institutions that facilitates globalization. And this is what happened now. And as we understand, the US is actually withdrawing. And in fact, may mga sumusunod pa raw, they are withdrawing all their membership, their participation to any organizations. And I said what I said a while ago, there are around 65 organizations, membership of America is now withdrawn, na-withdraw na po nila at wala na po sila. Even the World Health Organization, they withdrew, World Organization. World Health, the WHO, nag-withdraw na rin sila because they found out na ang laki po nung sineshare nila compared daw sa billions of population like China na million lang ang binibigay samantalang sa kanila is $500 million. Kaya parang ang datingan kay Trump is nagtatanong siya na bakit puro Amerika na lang ang may malaking sineshare. Pero pagdating sa mga pangangailangan like yung mga problems sa health, hindi nila nakukuha ng mas malaki. So parang ganun yung naging reason niya Kaya nag-withdraw po siya. Okay, so i-continue natin siya, kasi nga meron tayong time for I'm giving you the task. So tandaan, huminto tayo sa slide 42, sa Trump policy para po sa susunod ay